And then now I'm going to kick it over to Dr. Jennifer Wells, and she is a senior account manager for sustainability at Land O'Lakes. And she's going to talk to us about TruTerra, carbon, things like that. And then I believe after that, Jeff is going to also visit with us a little bit.
Good.
Let me see if I can share my screen.
AJ, you may have to give her permission to share her screen. Oh, nope, there we go.
You see that? There we go. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for the time. Sean, this is going to be repetitive for you. I'm sorry. I'm with TruTerra, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing with TruTerra and our the biggest hot topic as of late is our carbon program. So talk a little bit about both of those. I would love to keep this conversational, so just jump in if you've got questions. I'm happy to take them at any time. So TruTerra is a fourth business unit of Land O'Lakes. So we are our own business unit. We do most of our work with Winfield United in the agronomy side of it. And that's certainly where that's my expertise. And that's actually, I came from Winfield United. And so that's with my agronomy background. I'm sorry that my dog is barking. But, we also have Purina, everything for dogs and cats, and then the dairy foods piece of it as well. So, but TruTerra, we are also, I'm sorry, she will stop, I promise. We also are getting into the dairy foods piece of it with our carbon programs and with our and Purina as well. So we are making strides in that space. We just are not quite there yet, but we do have a team working on it. So we are the only farmer-owned and farmer-driven sustainability program in the United States, and we're very proud of that. I think, you know, at the end of the day, we report to a board of farmers, and we always keep our, you know, the farmer at the front of mind. And when we get into this sustainability space, it's real easy for the big dogs like the Walmarts and the Amazons of the world to kind of, you know, force what they want back onto farmers. And we, you know, it's our mission and our duty to make sure that we are making sure that the farmer is also taken care of in this space. And so, and they're, you know, they're getting paid for the things that they, the practices that they're doing. So there are over 1,000 businesses that are working on, and this changes every day. It's probably, it could be 2,000 by now, but that are working on their carbon footprint and have some kind of sustainability claims. You know, you open Google, you know, Yahoo, anything on the internet, it's all over the, you know, all over TV, everything you hear. It is really a space that's new and exciting, and it's changing for sure. There's been a lot of policy out of that's come out of it. Even in the last 2 months, there's been there is a $38 million grant from the USDA towards cover crops in I think 11 states. And then this past the 7th of February, they came out again with another $1 billion to fund climate smart agricultural grants. So you know, the USDA and NRCS is really putting a lot of efforts there. We also have the Growing Climate Solutions Act that cleared the Senate. It's headed to the House, and I think it'll pass there as well. It was very bipartisan. It passed 90, I think it was 96-4 or 92-8. It was, but it was, you know, wildly successful, and that allows the USDA to put more science and more research into these carbon markets. And so a lot of money being thrown at this piece of it. So if you think it's going away, you might want to think again, because it seems to be here to stay for a while. So there was a farm journal did a poll and said, what is, you know, to 730 growers, and said, what is the biggest reason you would not participate in a carbon market? You know, and I've heard all of these actually, but 64%, the vast majority, said that I need more information that I can trust. So when you think about who's in this carbon space, you know, we've got Indigo, Nori, these groups that have, you know, no access to farmers. They're just going directly to them, kind of just out of the blue. and we are really positioned in a place where we can win in this space. You know, you are, they trust you with their seed sales. They trust you with, their fertility plans and all of these things. And why wouldn't they trust you with carbon as well? So I really do think that, the cooperative system is a great place for this. And shame on us if we're not the most successful carbon program out there, or sustainability program, and that for that matter. So we have a lot of things going on at TruTerra, but the sort of the accounting piece of it is all based on the TruTerra sustainability tool. And I'm going to show you that, but that's really the backbone of everything that we do. And it's in and of itself, it's a really cool tool, and it allows sellers to have a real fun conversation with a grower that's not about products or price or anything. It's just truly about how healthy is their soil, how sustainable are they, how are they looking in terms of erosion, nitrogen use efficiency, all of these things. So it's a real cool conversation to have. But in the backbone of that, we have food system projects, and I'm going to talk about those a little bit in the next slide, where we contract with large food groups, like, or consumer CPG groups, and they want to buy some sustainably grown wheat or corn, what have you. And so through our cooperative system, we are able to utilize our retailers and growers, and the goal is for us to not make sustainably grown crops market access. That's really not what we want. What we want is for growers that are doing these things and taking the extra steps to make sure that they get paid for these and they get a premium, and then that the retailer gets some of that as well, just by managing the data, which is a large piece. So TruTerra carbon offer, I'll talk about that as well. This has really taken off. We've just closed the enrollment of our second one. Very exciting. I spend about 90% of my day talking about the carbon offer. And then we also have a water offer as well, which it is a pilot where essentially the Dubuque County watershed in Iowa has said, we want to reward growers to be more sustainable around our watershed. And so if they will put their information into the TruTerra sustainability tool, we'll pay them based on their score, or as they make improvements to their score. So that's something that we're hoping to, and through them being more sustainable, there's less leachate into their watershed, and they're taking water samples and that type of thing. And that's something that we're hoping to grow that and to make that, several other areas as well. We can find watersheds that are interested in, and a lot of them are. So this is the sustainability tool. You can see in the top left, it's from 0 to 100, and this is unique to us. It's not an A, B, C, D, or F. It's just, let's meet the grower where they are, and try to improve year over year. This is by field by year. So every year, every field gets a score. So and the goal is to improve, like I said, year over year. You can break that down. Once you put your information in, and it doesn't take long. If the whatever precision ag program you use is about 80% of the data, and then that goes through, and then you just answer some basic questions in terms of conservation practices, tillage, that type of thing. So then it's broken into the stewardship management, soil and nutrient loss mitigation, and conservation adoption. And then you can see on the right there, it's broken down even further. So this is where you can go to a grower and say, for this particular one, the 37, you've got a lot of room to improve. It looks like you're doing great on soil and nutrient loss mitigation, but your conservation adoption is where we might need to spend some of our time. And what are some things that we could do around that to make some changes and to improve your score? So just again, a neat conversation. It also, in the left-hand corner, these key performance indicators, nitrogen use efficiency, the field average was a 0.8, the lowest efficiency was a 1.4. You can actually click on that and you can see a map of where the areas that they're better than others. Did someone have a question? No. And then also sheet and rill and wind erosion, same thing. You can click on there and look at vulnerable areas of your field and see if there are some types of conservation program that you could do there. It also gives you a soil quality trend, and then that's a -1 to a 1. So if you are actually, creating carbon and your soil is getting healthier, it's going to be in the green or a positive number. And then if you're depleting soil and depleting your soil health and carbon, that'll be a negative number. And then finally, net greenhouse gas emissions. So this is just an estimate of the net greenhouse gas emissions that you're either emitting on your farm, or sometimes sequestering if you are using more sustainable practices. So any questions? I know this is a lot. So you can go in and run simulators for this. So in this particular instance, I said, what happens, if this year, or for next year, let's switch from conventional till to a strip till type of situation, and we add a cover crop. You can run that simulator, and it'll tell you exactly how many points it will increase it, and it'll show you over here like where these where these buttons move. So your soil management goes from moderate to advanced. And again, like, you increase your score by 28 points. So it's kind of neat just to play around with different practices to see which ones are helpful, which ones may not be as helpful. And then you can also go in and look at the profit insights. So you can, this is for a cover crop. And so what happens, what is the price benefit or deficit if you were to plant a cover crop? You can actually go in, the next slide shows, and you can put in your actual budget, like how much is your labor, and then how much is your seed, your chemical if you're going to burn it down, that type of thing. So it's really can give you a good estimate of if you're going to make a practice, let's make sure that it helps your sustainability score, and also it's going to be profitable at the end of the day. And then one of the coolest things I think is this area here with the red arrow. The potential revenue opportunities, and this is based on your county and your state and the practices that you're doing on your farm. What are the NRCS programs that you're eligible for? And it actually gives you a number, so in a range of what you could expect. So you could go into the NRCS office and say, I need an application for 529 or whatever, and so that way you're not missing financial revenue opportunities. And so that's a really it's a nice ad. So I always like to plug. So this is amazing that we get to link with the NRCS office in this way. But our the guy who is he's our president actually at TruTerra, was the chief of NRCS before he came to TruTerra. And so I think we get partial treatment, but that is a really nice feature for this program. And obviously it doesn't send any information to the NRCS. It just provides anything if a grower wants to do that, because I know sometimes growers do not. This is the budget that I was talking about. You can go in and put in whatever you want, the equipment, fertilizer, like all of these different things, and that make sure that because not everybody is going to, not all the prices are going to be the same. Different parts of the country are different. So you can get it as close as possible to a legitimate budget. So some of our food projects that we have going on, the biggest one is Tate & Lyle. That is, they're the 4th largest corn sweetener company in the world. They have 1.5 million acres of corn in the TruTerra Insights engine. They sell to Coke and Pepsi and Keebler, everybody that you can think of that uses high fructose corn syrup, and so they're a really big customer. So the 1.5 million acres of corn that they have in our system is based on, they got that number from, that's the amount of corn that they bring in, that they purchase annually. So all of the corn that they purchase is essentially in the sustainably sourced. So fairly cool project. Another cool one is Campbell's, and I won't go through all of these, but Campbell's is a cool one where they have about 80,000 acres of wheat that they source in Ohio and Delaware and Pennsylvania through our retailers, and they use the wheat for Pepperidge Farm for their goldfish crackers. So another cool story there. We also have a project with Cotton Incorporated and the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol, where instead of, you can go to the Cotton Trust Protocol website and put in your information, and you fill out the U.S. Cotton Trust Protocol, their questionnaire and enroll, and then you can use TruTerra as your data provider instead of putting your cotton into field print calculator, which is a lot more cumbersome and a lot more time consuming than putting it into TruTerra. So something else that our retailers are able to offer to their growers.
Jennifer, I've got a quick question.
Yep.
So the inside engine you showed earlier in that particular example, it was a 37. The score was for that grower was 37. Are all the acres on that previous slide, or are they acres that are quote enrolled in that inside engine?
Yes, they are.
And that basically shows those companies that you just showed that are marketing, in this case, grain or cotton is on there also. The improvements we're making regarding, or that grower's making regarding sustainability. I mean, that's where it brings it together.
Correct, except for a good clarification point there, Jeff. So the data that the food companies get is aggregated to the county level. So they never see that, Jen Wells is putting however much nitrogen on their particular field. They don't need those details, and I don't want, we don't want them to be able to get into that. So they can only see anonymized data by the county, and then their interest is looking for improvements over time by aggregated data. And so, as we work with each of the growers to increase their score, they are big, huge claims that they can make, where they're reducing greenhouse gas emissions and they're lowering their nitrogen use efficiency and that type of thing. So just want to make that point that they do not need to get into the growers' data.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? I will trudge on into carbon then. This will probably be where I get the most questions. So I always like to back up a little bit and talk about greenhouse gas emissions, carbon sequestration. Like, what people, I think, sometimes forget that not everybody is in the carbon space as much as in carbon conversation as much as we are at TruTerra. And so, greenhouse gas emissions, they are natural. They're naturally there. However, through all of these things that are on the screen, we keep increasing the amount of greenhouse gas emissions that are being put in the atmosphere. Big ag, I guess, gets a really bad reputation about, we're just destroying the planet, and we're only about 10% of greenhouse gas emissions that are emitted. So, and we are really, other than forestry, the only other sector that has a chance to be part of the solution. And so it is a very cool and fun time for agriculture, and hopefully we can, change the minds of the Greenpeaces of the world. I don't know that we will, but that's certainly a goal. So,
hey, quick question.
Yep.
Hey, so under land use and forestry, what was land use? Do you know? How do they define land use?
Oh, good question. No, I don't. You know what? I wonder if that's probably like pasture and grazeland, I would say.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
So we talk about carbon sequestration, which is a very fancy way of saying just like the normal process of photosynthesis. And so, if you remember back to biology, photosynthesis is simply carbon dioxide plus sunshine, absorbed by plants and trees, and then the carbon gets goes down into the root system and then is locked into the soil. And so every single, molecule of carbon dioxide that is absorbed is, something that's not going into the atmosphere and, as a greenhouse gas and trapping heat. So very important process. So these are just a few, just a quick Google search of the companies that have pledged to go carbon neutral by the year of 2050, which I don't know how they're all going to be able to do that, but these, they are making some very strong pledges. And you'll notice, like, these are super big companies. These are not fly by nights and, Whole Foods. These are big companies that swing a big stick. So when we talk about going carbon neutral, let's just talk a little bit about what that actually means. So let's take FedEx, for example. They want to be carbon neutral. So they they can't not fly planes and they can't not have delivery trucks. Can they move towards, some type of more efficient fuel, or, these are the things that they're looking at in their, in their system, and saying, what can we do to get our carbon footprint down as low as we possibly can without, in our business model, without losing, we still need to obviously grow our profits. So let's say they're saying, for FedEx for the year 2022, the best we can do is 211,000 tons of carbon dioxide emitted this year. So in order to be carbon neutral, they need to go out and purchase carbon offsets, essentially. So they need to purchase carbon credits in that the equivalent of what they plan to use. And that's how they can become carbon neutral. It's not that they can overnight just, quit emitting carbon at all. So just like to make that clarification. So all of these companies that are, if you think about it, all of these companies are going to be looking for carbon credits and are looking for carbon credits as we speak. So there's two types of carbon markets. The regulatory compliance, this is essentially factories and that are regulated by EPA and so forth, and they have to, by law, they must account for their greenhouse gas emissions, and they must stay below a number, a particular number. And if they go above, they can either purchase some carbon credits from another factory that didn't use all of theirs, or or pay a fine, essentially. This is not the space that we play in. We're in the voluntary market. So the voluntary market is, nobody is making these companies, go carbon neutral. Nobody is forcing them. The government's not saying they have to. They are just based, on ethics, morals, and probably most importantly, their customer base have decided to make pledges to go carbon neutral. And so these are, we can't sell carbon credits to the regulatory compliance groups. And so we are only in the voluntary market. So we're in a fun spot where we need to start thinking about carbon as almost a double crop, or a triple crop if you grow beans and wheat. But when you think about managing the two, first of all, we want to make sure that we're keeping our yields high. We're doing things that are, not going to lose yield, but at the same time, what can we do to increase our yield of carbon in the soil as well? And so, maybe when the commodity prices are high, maybe carbon's not such a big deal, and carbon is fairly, the price of carbon is fairly low now. But what happens when the commodity prices are lower and the price of carbon per ton increases? And I really think it will, based on supply and demand, quite frankly. So just a different mindset that I think growers in the past haven't had to consider, and it's going to be a fun next few years trying to navigate in this space. So last year we launched in February, and we had our first carbon program. We had Microsoft put out a bid and said, listen, we are asking for proposals for a carbon program, and we want to purchase 100,000 metric tons. So the 250 something companies applied for it, and then little TruTerra, it was a team of 17 people at the time. We won the contract out of the 250, which was very exciting for us. And so they loved our soil health piece of it. They loved working with the cooperative system. They loved, the reach that we had to growers. A lot of things in our favor. It was one of the largest carbon credit programs in the United States. We think it's the largest. The other groups haven't posted their numbers, but we returned over $4 million to farmers and sequestered about 200,000 metric tons. And our goal was 100,000. So we did well. Unparalleled speed from program inception to farmer payments. We started in February, and we started sending checks out August, September. So in terms of, a lot goes into a carbon credit. So, you have to, once the farmer enrolls, then, there's a lot of data that's involved. We have a model that the Soil Health Institute put together, and then so we send our data to the Soil Health Institute. They model it with soil type, lay over that with temperature, precipitation, everything that you can imagine, and then we take soil samples in order to sort of calibrate the model in terms of in total organic carbon. So it is a lot to do. So being able to do all of those things between February and August was pretty amazing, I thought. So and we are really are the most farmer favorable on the market. And the reason is that we are honestly paying for carbon credit, that the carbon that's sequestered in the soil, where some other programs are paying a per acre fee based on a practice change. So they'll pay $10 or $15 if a grower will plant a cover crop. But in the fine print of those contracts, then if that farmer takes the $10 or $15, then they are signing away their rights, their carbon rights. So now if like a carbon, that ton of carbon is worth $20. What if this particular grower has signed away their rights for their carbon for the next 10 years and it goes up to 80? So in our program, the grower always owns the rights to their carbon year over year. So very important distinction. So we launched our second phase of our carbon program again, and we launched it in January and it closed February 1st. So now we are in the data collection phase, and it's a lot of work, but we had a really good response to the second launch. So we have two different programs. We have a TruTerra carbon offer, and then we have a market access offer. So for the TruTerra carbon offer, we are offering $20 a ton upfront, and complimentary access to TruTerra. So you get the grower gets to see all of their acres in the TruTerra tool and learn any insights from that. But this is for a practice change that's taken place in the last 3 years. So we are able to go back 3 years for and pay for the carbon crop for 3 years. So think of it as a grower who in 2019 they had a wheat crop, they put it in the bin, they didn't sell it. 2020 they put it in the bin and didn't sell it, and then 21 they put it in the bin and didn't sell it. So we're going to go in and we're going to buy all 3 years. And so what they sequestered 19, 20, and 21. But they still have the rights to their carbon. So anything they sequester in the year of 2022, they still have a chance to sell that at the highest price that they can get. So again, $20 upfront for the last 3 years. And at the grower pays nothing for. There's no registration fees, there's no soil sampling fees. So just free for the farmer and $20 a ton. Are there questions? I'll tell you the one that I get the most is, what if a grower has been no-till or cover crops for longer than 3 years? And that sadly, right now, the answer is that they're not eligible if it's been longer, because Microsoft wants to pay to affect a change on the acre. So that's been our biggest stumble for sure, but we're working on that. We're trying to find some program where they will get paid. The only other limiting factor is there has to be corn, soybeans, wheat, or cotton has to be in the rotation. It doesn't have to be all of those all the time, but those have to be in the rotation at some point. So the next is the carbon market access. And so this is for someone who is interested in carbon, but they're not really, they're not ready to transact carbon today, and they kind of want to just learn more about it and dip their toe in. They can earn $2 an acre, plus they can put their data into the TruTerra Insights engine and look at their field that way. They're saying for $2 an acre, and I'm going to make a practice change. I'm either going to switch to no-till or I'm going to add a cover crop. So they put their data in, they make the practice change, and at the end of the year, they'll get an offer of we'll go out and we'll sample and model and all this, and they'll get an offer for the amount of carbon that they sequestered in that particular year. They don't have to sell it to us if they don't want to. They can say no thank you, take the $2 and go on, or they can sell it to us if they so choose, which I don't know why they wouldn't, but so this is just a way for us to, I think we're hitting the low hanging fruit right now with people, who made practice changes a few years ago. And so we're really trying to build up that pool so that we have more carbon to sell to all of those people who are looking for carbon credits, because I will tell you for sure, the demand is way bigger than what we have than what we have. So it's exciting.
Hey, Jennifer, speak to that real quick. So we had 100,000 metric ton goal and hit 200,000 in 21. What do you project for 22? You just mentioned that the demand's greater than
yes,
supply. Right?
Yes. So our goal is 400,000 metric tons for this particular carbon offer. So it will open back up in May. And so we have to open it and close it in order to be able to get it in batches to send to to the Soil Health Institute. But yeah, we're looking at 400,000. And to be honest, I mean, that's already sold. We could sell 1 million. So we hope to top that out. So, and we do have other buyers than Microsoft. There haven't been any contracts signed, so they haven't told us who. But once the announcement was made that we sold carbon to Microsoft, and we're still selling carbon to Microsoft, we had so many people calling and wanting to buy carbon credits that we had 3 people actually to field those calls and to vet different companies. So it's been a strange journey, but it's exciting. I do want to just a few things. What can farmers do today to prepare for opportunities tomorrow? Number one is data. Y'all, this data lift is huge. It's everything that you did on your field for the last 3 years plus 2 years before that. So 5 years of data. And then plus, how long can you keep the practice change? And we're asking for 5 years. And so if you have a cover crop, you were asking, it's called the durability. And so the longer the durability of the carbon credit, the more money that you can charge for it essentially. And so ours is 5 years. So you're looking at 10 years of data essentially. And once you get it in, once you get the previous 5 years in, it's real easy to continue on. But that's just, if growers are asking, number one, it's all about the data and make sure it's in a place where they can access it easily. Start looking for identity areas of improvement. I'm so sick of talking about cover crops and no-till or reduced till. We're hoping to get into some other markets, such as lowering the nitrous oxide, like lowering your nitrous oxide and that type of thing. And that's all through nitrogen management. And then third, make sure that they have a partner that they can trust, and do not let them sell their carbon rights away. That's the worst thing that they can do. I mean, it's make sure that whether it's us or whoever, make sure that they always retain the rights to their carbon. So, the price of carbon is going to go up. It is based on all of the funding and all the demand. And a grower does not need to sign away his rights for 10 years, and they're out there doing it right and left. So just something to ponder. So that's it. I'm happy to take questions. Or
on the crop rotation, you mentioned 3 crops and didn't have grain sorghum. Is that not in part of the rotation?
It's not currently. We don't have that modeling in the tool. But if corn or soybeans or wheat are in the rotation, you can still.
Oh, if it's still in there, but because this area is mainly on the dry land acres is going to be wheat and grain sorghum. So.
Yep, that's still eligible, but we are working on trying to get grain sorghum in there as well.
Very good.
Any other questions? Quiet group.
I guess is Indigo one of those that are signing people up for the long term, a 10-year commitment or such?
They are. They are actually paying for their carbon credits as well. So they are purchasing carbon. But yeah, I think it's a 10-year commitment.
Okay.
And it's very confusing to me because they're paying like 75% year one, 25% year two. I think they make it very fuzzy math so that you can't quite figure it out, where ours is just simply, we're going to measure how much carbon you have and we're going to pay you $20 a ton for it.
You can't say this, but that'd be their way of doing things. Fuzzy math.
Yeah.
Locally, the Indigo reps that have been come and gone in Oklahoma have not lasted more than a couple of years. So, I mean, there's turnover within personnel. It looks like that's huge.
Oh my gosh. I know, I live in Memphis and they're based here. I know so many people that have gone to work for them and lasted a month, It's crazy.
So, well, thank you.
All right. So thank you guys. And appreciate the time. I'd turn it over to Jeff, I think.
Are there any more questions for Jennifer?
Hey, thank you so much.
No, appreciate it.
And really, my job here, what I was asked to do, just kind of close this. And guys, I learned about this, I don't know what, Jennifer, maybe 3 years ago, and where this has came and the progress we've made in the last 3 or 4 years has been amazing to me. But what I see, the exciting thing for me is the opportunity for the geography that's represented on this call for Oklahoma and parts of Texas here. So where we came, and you heard her say that, the demand is much greater than the supply we have right now. So if there's any follow-up questions, or if there's any more info you need, please reach out to me or your local Winfield rep. But RJ, AJ, thank you both for allowing us. Dr. Wells, thank you. And for everyone else on the call, I'd be remiss without thanking you for your business for Winfield and Land O'Lakes. So that's what I have. RJ, AJ.
Man, I can't thank you guys enough for taking time out of your day to do this. And Tim, thanks for your help for getting us in contact. And Tim, I don't know if there's anything you want to add or say.
Nope. Well done.
I got a question.
All right, Sweeney, go ahead.
Okay, I'm a little confused. I mean, there was 2 methods. One was the $20, $20, and then the other one was a different method. And I didn't understand the difference between the 2 methods.
Okay. So the first one is for the grower that's ready to transact carbon. So somebody who's been sequestering carbon for the last 3 years, meaning they
Does he already have it documented then?
Well, no, we go back and get his information essentially. So, but if he implemented a cover crop or switched to no-till 3 years ago, then he's able to, able to make an offer on all those 3 years. The other piece of it is somebody that hasn't made a practice change yet, but they're interested. So like,
Okay.
if they're interested, then we'll pay them $2. They make the practice change, and then we'll make them an offer on their 1 year of carbon sequestration. It's confusing. It is.
But transparent is the key. So
Thank you.
No, thank you.
anything else?
Jeff, I was going to ask, what do you see as the biggest holdup for producers in Oklahoma and Texas to implement some change? One that I see and think of is the weed resistance issues that we're having, and the need to continue to work fields to get them cleaned up, especially in continuous weed areas. So,
Did you ask me?
yes.
Okay, so I think, and you're right, that is one, and I think I would probably, to me, one of the biggest hurdles outside of that would be information. I think, or publicity, or however you want to, the messaging, and how we can help them. There's going to be, we may create different issues, but Jennifer, we've got a lot of these acres in some heavy weed resistant areas also. I don't, as she talks about adding other crops, we're looking at other crops. There's some things that I've heard that we may be looking at that could even add more potential for this geography. I probably danced around your question, but I deferred to Jennifer for that.
Well, I guess one of the things that we're seeing here is converting from cropland to more permanent grass. Just tired of fighting it. I mean, we're on the outskirts of Oklahoma City, so I mean the land is becoming more and more valuable for development purposes, and just grazing some cattle out there for a little while until that process happens. And so that, I guess, that wouldn't fall into that. They are currently getting some cost share from NRCS or for installing permanent grass here. So
yeah, and we're looking at that because that's prime for carbon sequestration. I mean, a permanent grass that's there, that's the same as a crop and a cover crop, except for you're not making more trips to the field. So we are looking at that and trying to model that out.
I didn't want to mention that, but just because I didn't know if I could, but I actually had a conversation with Jennifer's boss a couple months ago, a month or so ago. She mentioned he was chief of NRCS, and he's a rangeland guy, so he's interested in that space as well. So hopefully, and you think about pasture and rangeland acres we have here, there may be something else coming down the pipe. So
Anybody have any other questions? Well, if there's not, Dr. Wells, Jeff, thank you all so much for joining us today. And if you guys need their contact information, you can reach out to RJ or myself. We'll feel free to share it. And if you have any other questions, like I said, you can reach out to RJ or I, or if you have Jeff or Jennifer's information, feel free. We hope that you guys enjoy these lunch and learns. It's been quite a joy to do them because we've covered so many different topics in the last couple of weeks that we've done them. So I hope that I'm not blowing you guys up with emails. And if I am, sorry, but it's just how it is. So without saying any more, taking up too much more of your time, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you guys for joining us. Dr. Wells, Jeff, thank you again. And we'll see you guys soon. Try and stay warm.
Appreciate it.